Welcome to this extra video. This video I'm going to set up 2 ultimate skills, but this is entirely based on what I want the character to do. So if you have anything else in mind, you can go ahead and experiment with it. However, I'm going to go along with what I had in mind, and the first skill is these twin swords that spin around you and damage the player. The second one is a large sword that appears and smashes the enemy. And the third one is going to be a healing skill, but I'm only going to set up the animation, as we're going to cover the functionality in another video. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. So what we're going to cover in this are the warrior's ultimate skills. We're going to make 2 of them, one in sword and shield mode and one in greatsword mode, and his healing ability. His healing ability will involve every time you dish out damage, you're going to get a percentage back. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to just set up the animations and the functionality, and then after we're going to do all the number crunching and making it actually functional. So to start, let's go into our warriors animation folder, and if you type casting or just cast, you have this greatsword cast animation and you have this sword and shield cast animation. These 2 are the same. For some reason I had a duplicate because I renamed one of them. So it doesn't matter which one you're going to take out of these. So let's go and type in cast here and go get sword and shield casting and make an animation montage out of this. So W underscore, I'm going to call it ultimate shield, and I'm going to move that into anim montage. And then I'm going to go get greatsword casting by typing in cast and create anim montage. I call it W underscore ultimate GS. I'm gonna move that into anim montage. Now let's do the sword and shield one first. So set it to body, and I want to trigger an ultimate either at the start of it or maybe here. We're not gonna put an animation notify yet. I'll see how it goes first. But before we continue, let's go in warrior and make a new folder. Let's call it spell. And in here, I'm gonna put my spells. So what I'll do is I'll go to character and I'm gonna get sword. I'm gonna go on asset actions and create blueprint using this. Go into warrior, spell, and we'll call this ultimate shield underscore BP. Another thing I want to do is, while I'm in character, I have this black material that's applied to my greatsword. I'm just going to create material instance, and I'm going to make a teal one. And I'll change the color. And I also have the opacity. I don't know if it's going to affect it, but I'll just put it like that. So I'm going to save that, go into my spell folder, Ultimate Shield BP. Okay. So my static mesh should be extremely tiny. There it is. What I'm going to do is add component and put in a skeletal mesh. I'm also going to add component and put in, let's say, a sphere. Sphere collision. The sphere collision is going to be the root. In fact, we can just call it root. And put it up there. And we're going to get the skeletal mesh and also drag it into the root and attach it. So here I'm going to type in, I'm not going to type anything, I'm just going to get paladin. So now I know his size. I'm going to go get the static mesh of the sword. And I'm going to rotate this. Essentially what I'm trying to make is a skill where the swords, he's going to have 2 swords or I don't know, 3 swords, and they're going to rotate around him. And if the enemy hits it, well, he's going to get hurt. It's going to be a pretty epic skill. It's a defensive one too. So we got sword 1. I'm just going to name it. I'm going to call it sword A. And I'm going to duplicate this. Well, looks like I can't. Strange. Unreal does strange things, so I'm just gonna delete this and add a static mesh. Get a sword. I'm just gonna check the scale, 1.7. I'm gonna set the scale to this stuff to 2. Easier to remember. So this one is set to 2 also. Let's rotate it. Whoa, it just froze for me for a second. Okay, it's working. Alright, I placed this sword too. And I'm gonna call this one Sword B. Now, I'm not too sure if they're exactly at even distance, so here, 56, 46, I guess it should be negative 56. So these values are pretty much 0, and then the height is 186. Okay, so now they're pretty much at even distance. What else I'm gonna do is I'll make another sphere collision, and I'll put both of these swords right in here. So if I need to rotate them, I can just rotate this whole sphere. Basically, this will be the spell. They'll be spinning around like that. I'm gonna go get a rotating movement and simulate. There, that's pretty much doing the trick. So this guy here, let's hide him, and this will be the spell. 2 swords, so it's basically swinging around you, like so. I'm just gonna grab these. I'm gonna turn on the skeletal mesh again to make sure that I will hit the boss properly. Just gonna drag these down. Yeah, they should probably hit the boss now. And just to double check their distance, negative 60, 0, 143, 60, 0, 143. Now let's change the material here to teal. Okay, so let's hide the skeletal mesh again. In fact, we could just delete him now, because we don't really need him. Now let's add some capsules to our swords. And I can call this capsule A, and I'll put it under sword A. Duplicate this capsule B, put it under sword B. Let's zero out the values, rotation, orientation, all that stuff. Adjust it. Just to make it fair game kind of thing. Just want these to be a bit bigger. So same thing for the next one. Okay, and one last thing is overlap all dynamic, put it to custom, and collision enabled, set everything to ignore except for pawn, vehicle, destructible. Same thing, custom, enabled, pawn, vehicle, destructible. Now This is it for this segment. In the next one, what I'm going to do is, as they spin, we will add a animation trail to these. Alright, so now we're going to add the trail effect to our spell. So what you want to do is go into starter content, go into particles, and new particle system. We'll call it P underscore ultimate shield. Now here in the blank space, you want type data, new ribbon data. In required, let's put a material. Let's type in sword trail. Maybe that's not bright enough, so I'm gonna type in sword underscore smash. I like this one. It doesn't bother your eyes too much, so take out initial velocity. And let's go into our ultimate shield BP. Then under each of these capsules, what you want is a particle system. Since I had it selected in the content browser, it's popping up right there. Now I'm going to zero everything out. And I guess the scale here, I'll set it to 111. I don't know how much it's going to affect it, but let's see. So put that in under capsule. And we'll set the scale to 1. So if I simulate, this is what you get. Now that we have that, let's go into our warrior blueprint. I'm going to close this particle system too, I don't need it. Now in my warrior blueprint, on the bottom left, I'm going to put all my spells and skills here. So when I hit Q, I'm going to use my ultimate skill, and when I hit E, it's going to be my healing skill. Forgot the word. Okay, so now what I want is spawn actor from class unpressed, and spawn transform. I want to make transform. Let's get mesh and get world location, plug that in there. Next, here you want to select ultimate shield underscore BP, and then you might want to check this. From return value you want attach to component. Now the component will get the capsule component into parent and snap the target, keep world scale. Let's give this a shot. There they are, my two swords. They're spinning around me. And wherever I go, they make these crazy trails. So I could scale these trails down, because if you look at this, it doesn't look too pretty. So another thing I noticed is they're pretty high up in the air. So if you don't like the effect it gives, well, just take it off. And what you can do is you can go into starter content just to make it a bit pleasing for the eyes. And we had pre-fire somewhere here. Pre-fire. You could take this and turn it blue. So I'm gonna do that quickly. P underscore. I'm gonna call it ultimate shield dust. I'm gonna change the colors. I'm gonna add color, initial color, hide color over life, and just put it teal. Same thing in this one. Alright, vector constant. Okay, now that I have those two colors, just gonna double check. Okay, I'm gonna go back into my ultimate shield and change those two particles. There. It's not that good, but we have something going on. I'm gonna compile this and save it. Save my warrior blueprint also. And ultimate shield is particle, I don't need it, so I'll just delete it. Now let's go into our warrior folder. Animation montage, and here. So this is the animation montage I want to play. And I want the particles to appear, I want the spell to appear at this point. So I'll make a new notify. I'll call it U shield for ultimate shield. I'll go into my warrior blueprint. I'll make a custom event. I'll call it spawn swords. And I'll hook that in right there. And something else I want to do is go back to starter content. Go to particles, duplicate the P_explosion. And I'll just call this P_U shield. Basically what it's gonna be is change all these to vector constants and put them all teal. So it's an explosion for our spell. And the smoke. Okay, so I pretty much have that. I'm gonna save this and go back into my animation montage. So select warrior, anim montage. It's right here. Now I'm gonna go add notify play particle effect. And now my particle effect, I'm gonna go get the one I just made. It's very low, but let's see. Okay, I think this will do. It's gonna look better than nothing. So I'm gonna close all this stuff and go straight into my animation blueprint. In my event graph, I need to call the anim notify. It was U shield. And then from my character, with all these freaky wires coming out, spawn sword, yeah, that was the event. Spawn sword and connect these together. Ultimate shield. So let's test this out and see if we're missing anything. Right, I know what we're missing. This always happens. So in the warrior blueprint, we gotta trigger it. So play animation montage and type in ultimate shield. Now here, just for we could do this now, put a branch and get is alive. And we're gonna play the montage. So if he's alive, he can do it. Another thing we're gonna need, you don't need to connect this right now, but we're gonna go check burst. If burst is, oops, wrong one. If burst is equal to 100, and it's true, well then you can use it. And while doing so, you will subtract 100. So this is your ultimate attack. Let's go back into our spell blueprint. And event begin play, I'm gonna put a delay, and I'll put in 15. So after 15 seconds, this thing is gonna kill itself. Now I need to go back to my warrior blueprint, and I need to make sure that I can't spam this thing, so I don't cast it too many times. In order to stop the player from doing that, what I'll do is I'll make a variable and I'll call it skill active. I'm gonna set right after the burst and after the alive branch. Well, we don't need to really connect it yet, but we'll put it on the side. Okay, it blanked out for a second. We're gonna get skill active, and if it's false, you can carry down the line. So this little chain of commands, we're actually gonna input it right here in between, but right now we don't need to because we're testing out. Boom. There are the two swords. However, the issue they have right now is they're pretty high up, if you notice. Seems like they're gonna miss the guy every time. So let's go into the sword spell blueprint and let's lower them. So you grab the two swords, and I'm just wanna see if there's a way to set it to world instead of local. It's really an option I never touch. Well, anyway. We'll put it down to this. And fix the values again. So this is negative 64. Then this one should be 64. And yeah, 0 and 86. Now if this doesn't do the trick, then I'll fix it off screen and tell you guys how to fix it. Yeah, it did the trick. So I got the two swords floating around me, and the functionality will be if they bump into him, well, they're gonna slice him and he's gonna get hurt. You can always increase the speed of the swords by going into your rotation movement, and you can set your yaw to 360. I think it's 1 roll per second, but it might be pretty abusive, so I'm just gonna leave it to 180. This pretty much covers the segment for the shield ultimate, and if you guys really want to try out something, you just have to plug in this code, and next time when you play, when your burst gets to 100, you'll be able to access this thing. There's going to be other things we may add in between this stuff, but I'm going to do it after in the fine-tuning segment. So let me just comment this stuff. So this is us spawning the swords. Spawn sword. And this is... Actually, I'm not gonna comment this yet. Or no, never mind. We'll just comment it. I'm gonna call it ultimate : shield. So next segment, we're gonna work on the great sword attack. Let's get started with the great sword ultimate skill. So in warrior character, I'm gonna right click my great sword and create blueprint using this under asset action. I'm gonna put that in warrior spell, and I'll call this ultimate, W underscore ultimate, what did I call it? Let's call it ultimate GS underscore BP. Okay, now that it's opened, I'm gonna add a skeletal mesh. Select the paladin, add a sphere collision, make that the root. Just gonna remove the attached skeletal mesh there. So in the animation, it's gonna trigger a gigantic sword to appear in his hand and smack on the enemy. Now here I'm just gonna put a random metal material. Get burnished steel. This one. And what else am I gonna do? I'm gonna delete the skeletal mesh. Go to the event graph. And event begin play, I'm gonna put a delay. And I'll put it to, I don't know, 6 seconds. Or no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna make a custom event. I'm gonna call it destroy. I'm gonna get the static mesh. This is the greatsword. And set enable collision. And I'll set it to no collision. At the same time, I'm gonna simulate physics. So it should just drop into the ground. Then set a delay of 2 seconds. And destroy actor. Okay, gonna compile that. Now I'm gonna go into animation montage. And here I have a ultimate GS animation. This is basically the great sword casting clip. So here I'm gonna change this to body, go down, and I want the sword to appear at this exact moment. So I'll add a notify called U great sword for ultimate great sword. And when he slams it, I'm gonna make kill GS. That's where I want the sword to get. Basically simulate physics and disappear, whatever. So now I'm gonna go into my warrior blueprint. Here I have a key E, and this will be used for oh, actually no, I'm not gonna use that. I'm gonna stick to Q. We'll make a branch. This hole is alive and still active. We're gonna move these. We're even gonna take this and move it back. So first you wanna check if he's alive. If he is, continue down. Is the skill active? If it's not, then you go down, and the next thing we're gonna check is he in greatsword mode? Just gonna move all this down. We'll put greatsword stuff up above the shield one. So next thing, I'm just gonna move these, and I want to get this custom event, this spawn, this make transform, and I'm gonna copy these and paste them above here. I'm gonna call this spawn GS, and from this type in ultimate and ultimate GS underscore BP. I'm gonna take this sword here, drop it, get world location, get world, rotation. Next, I'm gonna connect these into location and rotation. I also want to attach actor to component. I'm just gonna plug the sword in to the parent. Down below, I'm gonna say snap to target, keep world scale, and I'm just gonna leave that as is. So this code here, I'm gonna copy this, including the animation montage. Might as well just take the whole comment. What the hell? I'm gonna paste it above. and I'm gonna call this Ultimate Greatsword. I'm just gonna unhook this because for testing purpose I want the animation montage to play directly, and here I could type in Ultimate and get Ultimate Greatsword. Next, so if he is in Greatsword mode, we'll just dive him right into this thing. So ideally this would go into the branch here and continue down the chain, but since we're testing, we're gonna leave it like this. I know it looks a bit messy. I want to copy paste this custom event, and I can call it I'll just remove copy and replace kill. Replace that with kill. Here you drag from return value, and I think it was called destroy. Yeah, destroy. Here's the function. That's what will destroy our greatsword. I can comment this and call it spawn GS, so that spawns the greatsword, and this is the animation. Now we need to go back into the animation montage, and let's call, I can't remember what it was. Let's go in animation, Ultimate Greatsword. So U Greatsword and kill GS. U Greatsword and kill GS. I'm gonna go get the two custom events that I made. Spawn GS and spawn GS underscore kill. So spawn GS underscore kill and spawn GS. This is Ultimate GS. Just gonna close that. I'm gonna save because this is the 4th time I'm recording this video. It crashed so much. Let's play and see where things don't match. So I gotta switch modes. Holy. Okay, so let's rotate that. Let's go into the blueprint and rotate that 180. Let's play and test that out. So we're going to switch modes. This is monstrous. Well, I guess the whole simulate physics event, whatever, didn't work out, but I kind of have what I need for this. I could just delete this whole thing. Gonna go into viewports and just want to check one thing. Collision, block all. I'll say no collision. And one thing I want to add here for later. Type in capsule. Put it under the static mesh. And zero out the orientation. I want this to be as big as this greatsword. So half height. And capsule radius. So this is pretty much the radius. If it overlaps the enemy, it's gonna hurt him. So I'll test it one more time. And after that, I'm probably gonna end the segment and see what else is left. I don't want to drag the video on for too long. Nice. Probably gonna need a bigger capsule. So when you do animations like this, be sure to aim properly, because as you can see, it's not slamming the ground. But anyway, so I'm gonna pause the segment here and see what's left. So to finish off this video, what we're gonna do is set up a healing animation and do a bit of cleanup work and refine some things. Go in warrior animation and type power. You should have this power up. You want to make an anim montage out of it. I already did because my video crashed again. So here in anim montage I have W underscore power up. So I'm gonna set this to body, and I put particles, 3 of them. You see these green particles popping up? Well, it's the exact same particle as pre-fire, I just colored it green. So I'll show you here. I took pre-fire, this little ember we have, and I duplicated it and I made a green one. And I don't know where it is, but somewhere here. There. P_warrior heal. So that's my particle. Now I'm gonna go into my warrior blueprint here. So in my warrior blueprint, first I have this wire. I'm gonna disconnect it because it has to run down the whole chain. And yeah, the rest is, it's all connected here. Now with the press of the button E, I'm gonna start my anim montage for healing. Actually, first I want to copy these alive and skill active, and I want to paste it here. Next, I want to get play anim montage and delay and skill active, both of these basically. I don't know how you guys are planning for your game, but what I'm gonna do just for this is when you want to heal, it takes energy, so you need to have sufficient amount of energy. So what I'm gonna do after alive, I'm gonna go make a branch, and I'm gonna type in, sorry, not type in, but I'm gonna go get energy, and I'll check if it's greater than or equal to 30. If it's true, it's gonna carry on to check if skill is active. Here, actually, where it says alive, I can actually save some room, type in an AND boolean, because since both of these branches are true, I could just do that. So is alive and has enough energy. If this is true, carry down the line. So now you have skill active and it's not active, so we're gonna set it to active. We're gonna play the power up montage, put a delay, and skill will be inactive. Now for this, there's a variable we're gonna make that we will use later, and we'll make a variable here, a boolean, and we'll call it drain. What this will do is it's gonna indicate to our blueprint that since drain is on, you can start draining the enemy's HP for every hit you do. And we'll give it a cooldown of, let's say, 30 seconds, just from the top of my head. And then we're gonna deactivate drain, so after 30 seconds you can no longer do that. And we'll work some effects obviously, but maybe we'll have a little icon in the widget, like a plus sign that pops up, meaning you're in heal mode, and when it disappears you're no longer in it. So I'm just gonna comment this, and I'll say heal skill. And this section here, I won't comment that. Now let's go up to our movement input and add a pin. Go get skill active. So when your skill is active, you shouldn't be moving, otherwise you'll be having sliding feet. So I'm gonna play. Now if I press E, there. The only thing it didn't do is it didn't subtract the energy, but that will take care of it. So if I press E, I can't move around. And to subtract the energy, right after skill active, we'll set energy, and we'll do energy minus 30, and then set the energy. So this should now subtract the energy. I'm just gonna pause the video after this, and I'm gonna check if there's anything left to refine before I end this video. So there, I lost 30 energy. Okay, one thing you might want to do is go into starter content, particles, and if you did what I did, you could skip this step. The video's pretty much over. Anyone who did this step, I'm just showing this to them. What you want is required and emitter loops. Just put it to 2 for both of them. Otherwise they'll keep looping forever. This is pretty much it for this video, and in the next one, which is going to be actually a pretty long and hefty part, we're going to cover how these spells will do damage to the enemy, and we're basically going to deal damage to the enemy in general. We'll set up the whole blueprint code that's needed for that sort of stuff. So I'll see you guys in the next video.